Welcome to WeRCC, episode number 34. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I am Mr. Poppy, and I am joined this week by Jay Winterm and Jared Woodard. Gentlemen, how are we feeling this week?
Lovely. Mr. Winton?
I'm distracted. Sorry. I was late and I'm distracted, but I'm doing well. Thank you.
He feels
it's an
distracted
appropriate
this
Monday.
week.
Yeah, it's an appropriate Monday state.
Got to get you a coffee, man. You got to be on your A game for this. All of Reddit is listening to you. You will be judged.
I have my soda water. I'm ready to go.
Yeah. So as always, we're going to kick it off. We were going to have a little bit more of a structured agenda on future episodes, this one, including this one. And we'll start off as always, though, with the macro. We talk a little bit about Bitcoin, Ethereum, macroeconomics, and we just touch on it. You know, we're not economists here, so we really don't want to spend a lot of time on that and potentially lead you astray. And then we'll go from there. We'll talk about any interesting movements in the top 10 out of the top 100 cryptos. We'll talk a little bit about any interesting movements in the top 10 of the top 100 NFTs. And then we'll move into Reddit topics, anything that was interesting from the past week before we get into our own topics of interest. So, starting off this week, gentlemen, market honestly doesn't look too bad. I mean, we had a highly volatile week last week. It was just FOMC meeting minutes, the PPI, other needless drama. And we saw a little bit of fear creep into the market and then a nice bounce. How are you feeling right now about things?
Overall, crypto bullish in the long term. The global macro, I think, we're in for like perhaps incredibly significant century-long corrections and things. Not century-long, but the catching up with centuries of error and decades of error. That's my opinion on the long-term macro side, but crypto bullish as ever.
Mm-hmm.
Personally.
Sure. How about you, Jay Winter?
Yeah, I think, there's volatility is high, even though, stock prices are now kind of at the same point they were a few months ago in June, and same for cryptocurrency. Like, there's been a lot of dramatic moves up and down, but we're still kind of in the same place we were 3 months ago. And I think that's because, there's still a lot of uncertainty in how things are going to play out in Ukraine as far as equities, I think. And on the cryptocurrency side, there's always regulatory uncertainty. But it seems like I definitely am still long-term bullish, obviously. But it's just this steady stream of institutional adoption for cryptocurrency. So long term, I definitely agree with Jared that like there's no way cryptocurrency is going away. So you're gonna have to be bullish on that long term.
Yeah, if you look at the higher time frame, the thing I've been watching on Bitcoin is since November. November we had that peak, and then the Fed came out. Jay Power, favorite man from the Fed, came out and said, "Hey, I think in early 2022 we're gonna start raising rates." And the market, smart end of the market realized, "Hey, I think the party's over, and I should probably start selling." And that's when we started to see Bitcoin dump, right? In crypto markets in general. Now, the trend line that extends from that November top, we've only tapped it once on higher time frame charts. I have a 4-day chart, and that was in March. If you remember, February into March, we had a bit of a rally. Actually, I guess late January into March, and that was fun. Nice little bear market rally. And since then, we just dumped a whole lot more, right? So since mid-August, we've been stuck in the same 10% range. Now we are coming up onto that trend line again. We will meet it sometime around the end of October. So like the week after Halloween is when we will encounter it again. And, market always seems to get a little bit wound up when we approach those kind of major trend lines. We're also starting to converge on the, I think the 200 week SMA perhaps, which is around 23K at the moment. Excuse me. So I'm really wondering. I think we're going to see a lot of excitement towards the end of October, but I really am not not high confidence in the direction yet.
Yeah, to me it kind of feels like late 2018 where the price was kind of like bouncing along after it had dumped a lot, and then it dumped even more at the end of 2018. But like I was talking about the institutional adoption, it was just apparently in the beginning of August that BlackRock, the largest investing firm in the world, basically, institutional clients, they have, trillions of dollars in assets under management, offered investing into cryptocurrencies for their clients. And then it was just a couple of days ago, BNY Mellon, which is apparently the oldest bank in the United States, is now offering crypto custody and investing for their clients. So I think it's going to go up, but who knows, right?
Sure.
Well, yeah. Personally, I would absolutely not even try to time the market in the moment. That's the last thing I would try to do. I make my calls based on long-term principles and what I've learned over the years, and then just hold and weather the abuse as it comes.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. Yeah, I think either way, we can promise you one thing: the end of October into November is going to be spicy. There's just no way that we're approaching these major milestones in the market without something happening. And if you're dollar cost averaging, that's fine. If you're trying to take a positional trade, just try to hedge it as best you can. Have stop loss in place, whatever it may be, because I think it's going to be a big move. We've really been building up in this range for a few months, and that's never, usually when those kind of ranges break out, there's a lot of momentum behind it.
Well, have y'all noticed, like, we've all got our different, channels where we see different bits of news and things like that. And it something rises on my radar when I see that I'm getting similar or the same report in different channels that are, related to different things. And I'm seeing a lot of people anticipate a huge stock dump coming in the next couple weeks. And I no idea of the legitimacy of that, but have y'all noticed something similar in your feeds?
There's a lot of doom posting in general. I see a lot of it. You're just at that point in the cycle where a lot of people just emotionally capitulated, and they're like, fine, whatever. If we're going to 10K Bitcoin, and then fine, that's where we're going. In fact, I'm going to plan on 8K Bitcoin because I'm super bearish now. I see so much bearish bias that I think a lot of people, if they're waiting, if they're not going to average in, or if they're trying to take, short-term positional trades, they're probably going to miss the boat. I mean, the bias always swings. Too many people get just biased one way or the other.
I think I agree. And there's always those people who are like, predicting the end of the world every day. And, once every maybe 20 years or something, they're right. And I think like at this point in the cycle, it's harder to ignore those people, and they maybe get a little more traction. And I mean, I think it's, for a lot of people, it's just good publicity, clickbait titles, the world's going to end. And...
Well, that's fair, but don't the same interests align for people that are, advocating the bubble's only going up forever? Doesn't the same alignment?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and I just think, the mood
in
the markets right now kind of amplifies those negative voices more. You sure. You see more bear porn on Twitter lately.
I love that. No, okay. Here's the thing I was saying. It says institutions bought a record amount of hedges. They were at and it's just a scary graph with this super tank. And last week's panic hedging was 3 times more extreme than in 2008. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, all right. Just I don't know. I don't know if there's any validity to that.
Yeah, I mean, if we were confident that there was validity, then we'd be rich, I guess. But
I'll share it in the live chat. People can give their opinion.
Yeah, let's see what you guys think and ladies think. So let's talk a little bit about the top 10. Top 10 tokens. I dropped the updated list in there. The one I had is a few days old, gentlemen. But the top performer was not what I was going to expect. I guess it rarely is, but I don't even know if I'm going to say this right. Huobi token, HT token, was the biggest mover out of the top 100 in the past week. Climbed almost 52% in 7 days. Like, I don't know anything about this. You know what we should probably do in the future is actually look up what some of these are. I think that's an exchange, right?
Huobi, I do believe, is an exchange.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yeah, that's an exchange, and I would assume that it's more like a loyalty token, like a Binance token or whatever. I mean, KuCoin token is on there too. Like, they all have their own token on every exchange now, right? So it's just Huobi token, Huobi exchange's token.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, the one I thought was interesting, actually I'd say two were interesting. One was the Ethereum name service. So the ENS, if for those who aren't familiar, ENS is the Ethereum address. It's there's a few services that do this. It's the biggest one, where you can get like mrpoppy.eth or jwinterm.eth, and you can use that in your wallet to make it easier to find your wallet. They have a DAO governance token, and that was a big mover this week too. That was what, fourth place. I was kind of surprised. You really don't see a lot of DAO tokens perform well over the past couple of years. Really not since DeFi summer, but especially now in peak bear market. And I think that says something about the ENS community, which I see a lot.
Yeah, I mean they definitely have a huge community, and they've been. I think maybe part of the reason why you're seeing the price of the token increase now is because the NFT trading kind of sector seems to have, like, at least to some extent, kind of moved a lot of their trading activities to ENS. There's like all these clubs on ENS, like 3-digit club and emoji club. Like,
oh yeah.
They've kind of become like a very big part of the NFT market. People trading these ENS domains. So it's been hot. It's been hot for the last few months for sure.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I only have a few ENS. I feel like all the good ones were taken, and then I see some of these head scratchers where people will be like, "I got 75GH342," and they're like, "Oh, dude, that's worth
the
like
only ones I have.
$10,000."
I have jwinterm.eth and like whatever I got. Like, if I have a couple companies, so I have like the company's domain name.
That's hey, you gotta get your name at least if you can. I think I was too late to get mine. I had to like compromise. You got to get creative with those. Speaking of DAOs, though, there are a couple. Now there's an OG DAO token that's actually in the top 10 here. Was it 3, 4, eighth biggest mover the past week? The MakerDAO token. Now these are the guys that control the DAI, the stablecoin DAI, and they also run some other financial services on their D app on their website. But that's up almost 10%. Now that's the biggest one on the list. That's just what, $1,100. I'm also surprised though, but I think that they've been starting to explore over the past, well, really since the bear market started. They've started exploring relationships and outreach with some traditional finance entities, banks, those kind of things, which, talking about DeFi, I think is an inevitability. I think for DeFi to really gain a meaningful foothold, it needs to find partners in the Web2 traditional finance space that have ways to help them onboard users and bridge utility, to retail non-crypto native people. I mean,
to me it is interesting that there's 3 DAO tokens in these top movers: ENS, Maker, and also Lido DAO, or Lido, I guess, which is the people who make Steth and other so I mean, I think, and Uniswap is kind of the other really major DAO token, I would say. I think ENS and Uniswap are people based in the United States. I'm not sure where their entities are based. And like obviously all of these, I'm not even sure about Lido, but I know Maker and ENS, like there's no, the governance token doesn't pay any dividends or anything. Like there's no, it's not like a security, hopefully, I guess, for them, right? Because they release their tokens via airdrop. And I think, a lot of people, myself included, like if you got the ENS airdrop, like I don't really care about governing the Ethereum name service. So like I didn't keep my ENS, but it seems like, there's a lot of interest in these DAO organizations and we're talking about them right now because the price of the three of these is moving up over the last week, really, comparatively a lot. But it'll be interesting to see how these, right? And you were talking about like how these organizations could, grow by working with Web2 companies. But like, how can you really work? Like, how does a DAO work with a Web2 company exactly? I mean,
Well, that's where there's a market
times, right?
Yeah, no, that's where to me there's a market opportunity to solve that problem. It is a difficult problem, and there's a big value proposition on the other side of whoever comes to the market with a better solution. Until we get on more and more solid Web3 solutions. I'm personally of the opinion, I think the next big crypto bull run is going to be around DAOs. Like to me, that's the lowest hanging fruit of an obscene amount of value that crypto has to bring to the world. These more efficient ways of organizing and coordinating, getting work done. Or the ways in which human relationships can compound and create value for each other. And DAOs are, to me, a way of incredibly facilitating that and helping that. So I think if I had the money to start a business, that's what it would be around. I would be doing the market research now to have the answers and to help facilitate companies when they come to me or organizations then say like, we want to start a business. Should we be a DAO? I would be, have a company around helping them facilitate doing that essentially.
I think the way I like to frame this is the bridging the gap between Web 2 and Web 3. Web 3 is not ready for mass adoption, not even a little bit. I mean, we got to be honest. We've talked about it before. I mean, setting up the wallets, using the apps, it's a hot mess. But there are things that it does that are innovative, that are cutting edge, that Web 2, that traditional businesses are interested in. That there's a lot of complementary ideas and services between the two. And, I don't know if we might have mentioned this, but it was actually only a few months ago that MakerDAO, so MakerDAO, and we really didn't give them credit. I mean, they effectively are the backbone of DeFi on Ethereum. I mean, managing the DAI token, DAI is used in a lot of stuff, a lot of different protocols. Maker had a $100 million DAI loan to a bank, which was the first loan offered between a DeFi protocol and a U.S. regulated financial institution. That's a lot of money, right? And that's only the tip of the iceberg, right? I remember Aave is another very big one, perhaps the biggest in terms of TVL, total value locked. They rolled out a professional tool set for institutional investors this past year. And these are just the first steps. I mean, it goes further than that, which is eventually you're going to see cleaner integration, perhaps, pay app, cash apps, other services like that begin to find easier ways to onboard people into DeFi services and, perhaps even kind of mask those services, make it easier and use a terminology that traditional retail users will understand instead of, DAO and protocol and project and, I don't know, convex curve tokens, you know what I mean? Liquidity pools. I mean, they're just not going to completely understand that, but they will understand savings accounts or high yield, whatever, interest bearing, these are terms. This is where we got to kind of meet in the middle. But I think it's happening. I think that's going to be the evolution we see in the coming years.
I don't think the idea of a DAO is going away. Like that's been around long enough, even before crypto. in a way. Like it was DROs, things like that. This was like early political philosophy and things like that kind of organizing. I think that idea sticks around. But yeah, you're absolutely right. There's going to be a lot of terminology and a lot of closing the gap. And there's a market opportunity right there, and just educating people on these things.
Mhm.
Has anyone followed CityDAO at all?
No.
Not
From my
closely,
understanding,
not closely.
I like to follow projects like that because they're the cutting edge, the real world example of people practically trying to accomplish these things. And forgive me, anyone in CityDAO itself, if I get some of these details incorrect, that's entirely on me, but I'm just working off of memory. The project was a group of people that, pooled their money together and created and bought some land, I believe in Colorado, and they're doing their own thing and trying to solve a lot of these problems in the real world.
They're in Wyoming.
Why? Thank you. Oh, is it Wyoming?
I was looking
Okay,
at 'em.
awesome. Yeah, thank you for the correction.
Yeah, I guess to me,
Yeah.
I'm fascinated with the regulatory side of this stuff, and it seems to if you're actually just a decentralized autonomous organization, then it seems to be going quite well. DAI is almost like a public good, right? Like it's not so much a business, or like CityDAO is Aave lending is more of a business, but they're kind of removed. It's hard. There's still no one really operating as a decentralized autonomous business, I don't think. I know Shapeshift is supposedly, but I don't know how that really works in practice, and I guess we'll find out, because the one thing that's seems to be ultra forbidden is issuing a token that represents ownership in some venture where revenue is paid out, and according to your ownership percentage. So ENS generates revenue via the sale of domain names, and in theory, you could distribute that revenue to ENS token holders, but they didn't do that, at least in part, I think, because then it's definitely a security in the eyes of the SEC. So I still think that it's if you're actually just an organization, more of a nonprofit public good type of organization, it's a little less messy than if you really wanted to try and be a decentralized autonomous business. It seems like that's not quite really possible still.
Well, I mean, we'll see. That's why I'm hats off to those that are breaking the ice and pushing ahead. That's Eric Voorhees, one of the main guys behind Shapeshift. That's been his attitude with it. He's we've never had regulatory guidance. We've been pushing along, and we just got to make the best calls we can and keep going, and then push the regulators when they're wrong.
It would be interesting to see if him. Because we're both kind of using them as an example, and I think that's because they're kind of the only company that's even really trying to do it. So it would be interesting to see if somebody could, I guess, how their experience has been going.
I know
assuming that they don't get charged by the SEC. Or
yeah. Well, I know someone that's worked for the DAO, just picked up freelance work here and there. So it's it's a thing, and it's operating, but we'll see what the fallout is. Who knows?
Yeah. So the next topic is going to be the NFTs. Talking just about the top 10, any big movements. One thing that's been getting I've seen a lot of positive commentary on is a project called Genuine Undead. They're ranked number 5 in the past week for volume. The ones above them aren't any surprise. There are 3 Yuga projects: Bored Apes, Mutant Apes, Other Ds. It's pretty standard. And then Punks at the top. But Genuine Undead, I have seen a lot of chatter about. It's now, I'm not saying go out and buy it. It's already climbed quite a bit. It's still underneath, though, which does make it one of the more accessible ones at the top, or, the top 10 here. But the other big news this week, and you've seen the most volume growth week over week here out of the top 10, is Azuki. And it's because they just announced a new open source type of token standard that they're calling physical back token. And it's effectively a way to map physical objects to the blockchain to confer ownership. Now, I know this has been done before, but I don't know that there's ever been an elegant, singular, open source standard for that to happen. And I could be wrong. That's something we're going to have to research. But the market obviously liked it, and it's been a positive for Azuki. Considering it, now, do you guys know the drama between the founder of Azuki and
Sure, he's like multiple rug pull executor who then founded Azuki, and it later, after Azuki was already a popular project, it came out that he had like rugged whatever. I mean, it's stupid.
Well, you're missing the best
drama.
You're missing the best part. He also pretended to be a woman on one of those. Like, it wasn't just he rugged. He actually pretended to be a woman for one of the, yeah.
Okay.
And so, yeah, the combination of things really hammered Azuki. And that's why a lot of people, and I saw some comments here where people were like, man, why did I shade Azuki? Look at the price going up because of this news. I should have bought despite that drama. Here's what I always like to tell people. It seems like this space doesn't have much in the way of morals. I mean, I see people trading. And maybe I'm, clearly, I'm trying to be higher, holier than thou here. But for example, I see a lot of trending NFT projects short term that are just stolen intellectual property, and people don't care. They're like, hey, if I can make money, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. To me, I don't know how much time we want to spend talking about NFTs, but it's just amazing to me that Bake and Yuga is like so durable in terms of, like, even though the market is dead relative to what it was 6 or 12 months ago, it's like they're still every month at the top of the volume charts.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing you see in any sort of speculative market, which is blue chips or the equivalent to blue chips. I don't know if you would call anything in NFTs a blue chip yet. But the closest thing we have would be some of the OG projects, CryptoPunks for sure. People retreat to what they consider the safer investments, right? And actually, I talked about this a little bit this past week. I saw some comments where people were upset. They had bought the project Renga, which has some clever art. It's not mind blowing to me, but it's good. It's better than most NFT projects. And they're like, hey, I'm going to sell this. I can't wait for it to dump like everything else in this bear market. And my response was, hey, you guys got to be, and this is really to everyone listening. Like, if you're trading NFTs, you really have 3 choices right now. 1, invest with a long-term investment horizon. Invest with a good team that you trust over long term, whatever it may be, whatever you're passionate about, whatever you believe in, whatever you support. Your best bet with NFTs right now is find a solid team and just stick with them, because the bear market is going to keep going on, right? We're not going to flip a switch next week and suddenly be back in bull. And number 2, so if you don't want to do that, okay, you can do short-term degen flipping NFTs after they mint is probably your best bet when the hype's the highest, because they're almost certainly going to drop. And number 3 is just don't trade NFTs and stick to traditional crypto. Because the problem with NFTs right now is there's just limited liquidity. And I think it's just, I don't know what you guys think, but I think it's just a rotation. It's just a rotation of generally the same pool of liquidity jumping between projects as they mint, trying to flip, trying to make a quick buck. And the quick buck days are getting harder and harder for NFTs.
I would not recommend trying to trade NFTs unless you have some like really good insider knowledge that you can like capitalize on. But otherwise, I think it's just the only NFTs I own are like ones from my company and ones from guests that I've had on the NFT show here on Reddit. Like, I just buy NFTs to support people and not to make financial investments.
Yeah. I'm in that boat where the NFTs I buy they're more fun related, and it's I don't look at it as an investment. It is perplexing to me what the value being created with NFTs are, and as I watch it, it's definitely something around community and people coming together and coordinating, working together, which is an awesome thing and similar to the DAO notion. And I think that's awesome. There's a lot of opportunity there. There's also, as we've seen with any, any kind of opportunity, there's also the opportunity for harm and things like that. So I would say if you're curious about getting into NFTs, I would come up with a theory of what the value is that and test that, you know, in a more of an intellectual way before and have that idea down so that start small and then build on that. Don't just hop right in and think you're investing. Like, have a theory that you can refine and repeat, and that way, even if you lose your money, you get to go back and refine your theory, and that improves and adds value to that. I don't think that NFTs or crypto art is going away, or art on crypto. That's not going away, in my opinion. It'll always be here. It's just getting started. But it is a very, very young market, and so I think a lot of the people participating in it don't even understand what the value proposition is, or what's actually happening, you know, behind the scenes. So that's the way I would approach it if you're interested in investing in NFTs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you really just want to find the community that you vibe with. You know, and that sounds silly, but you find a solid team that's actively producing engaging content. The community is excited by it; they're having fun, and you are enjoying it.
Yeah,
you know, if it's that kind of
Sorry, you know what it is, Poppy? Too. Sorry, you just hit the nail on the head. They can't tax human relationships yet, or they don't yet. And think of how much value and joy you get from spending time with people, with like-minded people, or people with similar values, or something, you know, you have in common.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much joy in that, and that's, I think, is part of the NFT value proposition. I absolutely agree with you. Like,
no, it really is.
Yeah,
it really is. Yeah. I mean, you can have a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun in the bear market with the NFT projects that I'm in. And, you know, if nothing else, I think everyone should try at least one NFT project, even if you're not into NFTs, which a lot of people are not. A lot of people haven't given it a try though also. And
but you can get so much fun out of the community and the relationships. So much value out of that. You can spend $10 on something and have something in common with a lot of people and something to relate about.
Yeah, and there's a wide range of stuff. I mean, even if it's just it could be a music and a project. It could be, you know, one-of-one artwork pieces. It could be there's even like gaming communities. There's role-playing ones where you're actually actively voting on the story and influencing the story, and depending on your faction or your character, you know, things happen. There's a lot of cool stuff going on, and we really don't talk about it enough because we're really more focused a little bit more, maybe like 80% on kind of traditional crypto markets. But you know, I do think that it's worth noting that there's some cool stuff happening in the NFT.
Yeah, there's a comic book project where the comic books are, of course, NFTs. At the end of the comic, there's a questionnaire on what you want to happen, and depending on the feedback that comes back, that changes the way the next comic is going to play out. You know, characters can die off, etc.
Nice.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it could be like in the 90s when they killed Superman. Yeah, I'm not going to go there. That was like the most overhyped, dumb stuff they ever did. I remember that though. I got the special like gold covered comic edition. It's worth like 40 cents.
I remember kids talking and arguing about all that. Yeah.
Yeah. So final note on there, you know, we talked about the ENS DAO governance token being a big mover. Top 10 volume, and this has been pretty consistent for a while, as ENS continues to be a top performer from the NFT space. You know, feel free to check it out. I mean, you might get lucky and find an ENS someone hasn't claimed that, you know, or if you can kind of guess the name of a project, company, business idea or something before it becomes big, that also could be worth money. It's fun to just check it out. And there's some similar services too we've spoken about before that you can check out in the NFT side of the house. But let's go to some of the trending Reddit topics from the past week. This one I kind of got a kick out of. Kanye West was wearing a Satoshi hat. This is almost certainly in response to the bank, his bank breaking up with him effectively. Did you guys see the pictures?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, he's a polarizing figure without a doubt. But he's well known, and to see someone like that, immediately, like, they get stiffed by the bank. I don't know the reasons or what happened there, but you get stiffed by the bank, and he immediately decides, you know what, it's time to flex a Satoshi hat. And that's really sending a statement that I think the general public isn't going to appreciate.
I disagree. I think that's going to do a good job of converting. Yeah, he had 140 million in JP Morgan Chase, and they said no thank you. And he's like, hey, if they can do that to me with that kind of money, what can they do to you?
Yeah. I just wish I knew what happened. I mean, you know, normally banks don't walk away from that much money. So
I have no comment, except it's just crazy that within the last 2 years now, you know, we have Elon talking about Bitcoin and Dogecoin all the time on Twitter, and Kanye wearing the Satoshi hat, and Tom Brady on TV shilling FTX or whatever he was shilling in the Super Bowl. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy times.
Well, do you guys remember this? Like, over 2021, I remember thinking this. It's like, we're getting news every week or some kind of exposure, some kind of for crypto that it's like back in 2016, 2017 would have been like, that would have been the talk of like 6 months, you know, like some nation state adopting it or something like that. And it seemed like in 2021, every
throw
week.
that in there too. Sure. Yeah. I think so. Like, to me, I don't have anything to say about Kanye except that to me, that just kind of fits into that, you know, all of the crazy good news that we get nowadays compared to back in the old scammy days of 2016 or whatever, when it was like unimaginable that something like that would ever happen. One thing like that would ever happen. And now, you know, it's like BlackRock and Kanye and just doesn't stop, right?
I think that kind of thing. This is why I'm kind of bullish or more so bullish in the long-term crypto is I think that's just getting ramped up. It's going to get even more so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this next story I thought was wild. Also because it's something similar happened to me when I lost my portfolio to the DeFi hack last year. But Solana hacker, basically he stole $70 million from a platform on Solana. And then he posted a thread. I read the thread, and he posted it talking about how it was a good strategy. He thinks it was a fair trading strategy. It's another one of those, what I like to call, in quotes, code is law memes. There's a very large, or at least a notable segment of the crypto space that is a firm believer in code is law, meaning if you can hack a protocol, that means the protocol is operating as designed and you did nothing wrong. No.
Yeah, that's absolute sociopathy, in my opinion. I'd like to make the case for that utterly. You know, people put real wealth into these things. People work hard for wealth. It has a real representation, and we can always say, like, oh well, if they had money to throw into crypto, then you know they didn't really need it. We don't really know that. We absolutely do not know that, and because the powers that be misregulate the economy or dysregulate the economy so much, people are forced to make ridiculous investments, or at least, you know, heavily incentivized to get into investing and trying to get a reasonable return on their money, because just the regular, you know where I'm at, you know, the powers that be just mess the economy up obscenely. So again, that kills the whole, like, oh, well, if you can play in crypto, you have money to lose. Absolutely not. These are money. I've worked for exchanges. I know people that have had to pull money out legitimately. I've seen the reports for cancer treatment for family members or this or that. So we don't get to make that claim. And when someone comes along and just plays this, to me, it's like it's not just like gross sociopathy. It's like dancing about it and claiming some kind of a moral high ground. It's absolutely disgusting to me. And we could say, like, well, what's you know, what can you do about it? And it's like, well, you know, if that's the going attitude when people hear about that, it's like, okay, cool, yeah, you did that, and you're a horrible person. You know, if people know coming to society and coming to the world and getting that kind of response, you know, like, and the ultimate consequence to me, and this gets into like kind of a karma kind of thing, is biologically or spiritually, however you look at it, we have a conscience, and for people like that, either they will have a guilty conscience, or their conscience will abandon them. and say you're not worth the time, and that'll be the price of it for these kinds of things. Like, this is absolutely horrible stuff, and there are consequences for it one way or another. If they're lucky, they'll get real world consequences instead of in their soul and biology consequences. That's my take on it. It's wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I am not necessarily a believer in code is law per se, but I mean, it kind of is the reality of the situation. And I'm not even sure like who would, I guess that they could try and like sue I believe the guy who hacked it is Israeli, so like maybe they could sue him in a US court and get a judgment, and I don't know how that would get enforced at all. Like, and who's had standing to sue him, and where would it be done? And
well, I don't.
So it's just like whatever your beliefs are, kind of the reality of the situation is code is law, right?
No. I disagree, because even if, okay, let's say I was assuming totally anonymous and you can't find him. If you know the person, you can tell him he's absolutely horrible, and you just ostracize.
Oh, he's on Twitter. I mean, yeah, this guy's
yeah,
on
you can absolutely ostracize these people, and if every time they speak up or look around or turn a corner, someone's looking at him and saying you're a horrible person, undo what you did.
Well, that's part of it, but there is actually a legal implication. A lot of these DeFi protocols have a business entity behind them, and they can 100% take these people to court. And even if it's not the business entity, the DAO or the community can always get together and bring charges. Now that's what they did for the kid that did the index hack, and the judge. So the team out of pocket brought up a case against him. The court ordered him to freeze the funds he stole, and the court would take possession of them during the trial. In response, the kid. I say kid, he was like 19 or 20. He fled, went on the run, so he never went to court. So I assume he has a warrant out for his arrest. But then the irony of it was, in his case, like you're talking about the karma, ostracizing, his stolen funds were stolen from him.
Well, now maybe they were.
Yeah. And we talked about that a few episodes ago, but all that to say that it is possible to bring a court case against someone. Now, this guy's fully doxxed, and if you read that, Jay Winterm, it's a wild thing to read. It's one thing when it's an anonymous person, but I don't think I've seen something of that scale from a known person with their picture, on their PFP.
Yeah, I mean, he talked about it as like a trading strategy, or so he's like, we executed a trading strategy on this platform. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, he or someone did say that was a known vulnerability that had been there for months, which, if that's true, that's a little bit wild. That doesn't make it forgivable, but that does call into question, hey, you had people investing in your protocol with a wild vulnerability open there.
Yeah.
That's just terrible. You should never do business with them again. But as tends to happen in this space, I have a feeling Mango is going to be fine. People are going to still use them, and in a week we're going to not talk about it ever again.
Well, and those people that enable it, they get a piece of it, in my opinion. That's why when people do play into these obviously like Ponzi bad things, and they're rolling the dice with it, I'm like, hey, I got no sympathy for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. On one hand, you do feel married to that. Like, if you lost money like I did, your only hope for recovering it is basically that protocol finds a way to recoup funds to pay you back. But I moved, well, my tokens were worth like nothing at that point, but I moved everything I had out of there, and I'll never use it again, because I lost that money. And I would say the same is what people should do for Mango. They screwed up. The other guy is definitely not innocent either, but the auditing and security of your code and your decentralized application is critical when you're handling that much money.
And here's the thing. I partly blame, no offense, I know I'm like giving you some feedback here too. Like, the people that invest in these things, look at like how much, ask the founders, ask the other people that are running this stuff or have the responsibility on the line. How much of your money do you have on the line that I can burn if you're incompetent or malicious? Like, there are ways we can hold these DeFi situations way more accountable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The biggest part is actually being very critical of the auditing that they get done. I think that's challenging though, because most people don't understand the cybersecurity space. They don't understand the risks out there, and they don't understand how to even code or write or engineer things. So it's not always as easy as, hey, look at the contract, right?
That's absolutely fair. That's absolutely fair.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and it's tough. Same in web too, right? Like I never really look at like Instagram or Walmart.com or, wherever you go, right? You never really look at the security of the code. You're so accustomed to it just being secure enough that you can transact over it. But it's, I think it's just riskier in Web3, and I'm not an engineer, so I can't really speak eloquently to it. Maybe that's worth having some security professionals on sometime to talk about that.
I've got a security professional buddy I could get on.
Yeah, reach out to him. Or if anyone listening if that's your specialty, I mean, we would love to hear more. It's like the most relevant topic in the space because it is no week goes by where a ton of money isn't stolen from some protocol somewhere.
Well, I've asked him a lot, and he's like, even if you can throw infinite. I've had this conversation with many engineers over the years. You can throw infinite amounts of resources into auditing and still miss something. Like the auditors cannot or are not likely to catch everything. Bitcoin, for as simple of a code base as it is, had from my recall, human recall here, had an inflationary bug in it that did get caught and corrected at one point. So yeah, like auditing is not just it. That's why personally I want to see some mechanism, on
Bitcoin had an overflow bug that made it into mainnet.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was corrected, and then it was kind of rolled back by the miner. Like, I mean, they just got enough miners to like go back before that block that it had been exploited and start mining from that point. So it was, I think it was like a few hundred blocks or something, like a couple days that they rolled back. But that was in 2011, maybe, so long ago.
It was a very long time ago. Yes, but ostensibly Bitcoin's one of the most like paid attention to chains, and audited and scrupulously detailed stuff, and that still got missed, So and just code, the nature of code, you don't know everything it can do, and so auditing is absolutely something that should be done. Best practice. You're absolutely right on that. It doesn't mean it'll catch things that a bad actor won't exploit. And with the side of like the quote unquote code is law kind of hacker situation, if someone comes forward, my opinion is, if you find a problem in code, you should contact the team and be like, hey, I found a vulnerability in your code, and you got two options. You can either give me X amount of bounty, what I want for it, or what do you offer that's reasonable, or I'm going to publicly post it. That's, I think, is absolutely A-okay, because it's already public. The code is already out there. It should be, open source and auditable by anyone. So it's like, here, you either do this or I'm going to wreck your reputation. And to me, that's fine because, the main team should have caught it, should not have introduced it in the first place. I know that's impossible, but as someone who's asking someone to expose their wealth on something I'm doing, yes, I'm holding some accountability for that kind of a thing. If I know it can't be perfect, but when a flaw is found, yeah, I'm going to own it and fix it. And if someone comes to me and has found a vulnerability, yeah, they absolutely deserve to get some kind of compensation for that. In my opinion, but it needs to be on the level and not by actually using the exploit and taking, but here's the thing that kills me. It's happened with the DAO hack, and now this guy's stealing millions of dollars. Getting wealth in society is supposed to be a representation that you brought wealth to society. You did something incredibly value relative to that, and these people who exploit these things, they get hundreds of millions of dollars. It's like they know they didn't bring hundreds of millions of dollars of wealth or what, the Binance hack with 500 million or something like that. Like, and it's the rewarding of bad actors, and it kills me. That's my rant.
Yeah, I mean, it's like code is law, right? Ultimately, code is law. It doesn't,
no, I disagree with it because
you can't turn back the blockchain, right? No, you can't like maybe some people can.
It's not
right?
that code is law; it's that code is code. And code comes with these inherent flaws
But
and
now code
vulnerabilities.
results in like non-reversible
Well, it's like people saying
financial
that, like, if
outcomes,
I
right? Like, I
no,
mean,
that's like people saying if we're alone in the wilderness and no one's around to tell, I can do whatever I want. It's just like if I can get away with it, it's okay.
I just mean from
You
the
know.
perspective that it's like you can't get the money back, right? Like without cooperation from the person who stole it.
Well, it's again, that's not that it's law. It's just it's part of the problems of code. To say it's law kind of reflects in this idea that like, oh, well, this is all what we intended to happen. It's so obscene to me, and it's like victimizing someone and then dancing about it. It's like, oh, screw off.
Yeah. All right. Well, I gotta run, guys. It's good chatting. I will see everyone next Monday.
Jay,
I'll
nice to
let you
chat
finish
with
up.
you.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And we're gonna keep on going. We got a few more topics to cover. We'll do it just with me and Jared. So first one is that there's a financial action task force working on behalf of the G20. G20 being the 20, those are 20 most powerful economic countries, right? Or countries from an economic perspective.
I hate having to learn these things. I got into crypto so that I could ignore finance and fiat.
Yeah, I actually never took the time to look it up. I always assumed it's at least 20 powerful economies. We'll put it that way. 19 countries and the EU. So anyways, it's very influential. Decisions made by the G20 will trickle down pretty much to the world because highly influential. But they've laid out a potential set of rules regarding stable coins and privacy and a lot of reporting requirements that essentially remove the anonymity from the space. Things like recording all crypto trades on exchanges, recording large purchases, recording transfers to cold storage, sending all this to tax authorities. Now, if I wasn't talking about crypto, this would sound perfectly normal, right? This is basically what a bank would do.
I mean, international standards aim to supersede national law.
Well, the way this is framed is essentially that these member nations will take that and implement the law at their, respective, federal level. So each country would have a version of this as a law. But if they all agree that this is the way forward, that's a heavy list of requirements that I'm not a fan of.
Yeah, this is no thank you. Reporting of transactions and their nature by VASPs. Nope. No, sir. Do not like. What kind of individual transactions? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's absolutely unsurprising that this would come about. It's of course you're going to get this, but I want to see people absolutely fight it tooth and nail.
Yeah, and a big part of it is.
This is part of why these days I'm caring less and less about is it decentralized, is it censorship resistant. I want to see, are the people involved, is the community involved, is the project regulation resistant? That's what I want to see. If you can be regulated, that's the degree to which it is crypto to me. Quote unquote regulated.
I'm perhaps a little more moderate. I like to have a diverse ecosystem. Like I like to know that there are things like Monero out there, but I am okay with some friendly, cooperative, supportive regulation for other projects for them to see, mass adoption.
Oh, no, I agree with that. Like I'm with you. Like I want the mini fold approach. I want all of these experiments out there. I want all of that stuff. But to me, like the cooperation with regulation, and here's the thing: the more the protocol, the community can choose whether or not they're regulated or whether or not they comply with regulation, the more the regulators have to come to the table and negotiate. So that's where I'm at with it, and there's absolute benefit with being willing to work along and cooperate in things like that, but. And part of that is going to help with adoption, help make people more comfortable with it. But when I want to make sure that if the regulators pull the gun, it's effectively ineffectual for the project.
Yeah, 100%. So we have just a couple more topics. I think maybe we do one more topic and then we'll jump to the Q&A. Were one of those yours down there?
What's that? Let's see. Hold
At the
on, the
bottom?
topic headline. Oh yeah, I should have put my name in there. Yes, indeed. I have picked all of those.
Sure. Hey, why don't you lead us off then?
Sure. Well, and these are all like very small things. So we don't got to spend a lot of time on each of them. Some of them are bigger than others. But I just saw something about the Pulse chain like hex drama. Let me open this tweet up and I'll drop it in the chat for everyone. Sorry, not the Reddit chat, but I'll drop it in the Discord chat. This is someone, Eric Wall on Twitter, said, LOL, Richard Hart delayed the Pulse chain launch, saying soon for over a year, and has now revealed that he's actually just forking ETH2, and the Pulsicans are absolutely livid. LMAO. So Hex and Pulse Chain, I don't know the absolute facts or the details. It's just one of those projects I've never personally been interested in, because it's one of those things where I ask the question, where's the value coming from? And I can't see it being any different than some kind of a regular Ponzi kind of thing. Not saying it is, but it's just I can't tell like where's the actual value proposition in this thing,
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's gotten a lot of criticism like that over the years, but I also know it's one of those projects too that's just kind of gone on and on and on. I can't really tell what's novel about it, as opposed to it's just an Ethereum fork with some Ponzi-nomics, And again, I'm not saying that's the case. That's my personal, like, I took over the years I've glanced at it, and that's been the approach I have with it. But now seeing this, that they've been talking about making from my understanding, they were going to fork Ethereum, or had said it's in testnet and going to happen for a long time. And now it turns out they're just going to re-roll ETH2. That's kind of crazy, Oh, have you followed Hex at all? Pulse Chain and all that? Mr. Poppy? Hello? Okay, well, I'm going to assume you've lost audio for a bit. Folks in the chat, can you hear Mr. Poppy?
Yeah, I'm here. I just had a mic issue.
No worries. Okay, cool. Yeah, so have you followed Hex, Pulse Chain, any of that stuff? And one of the aspects of it too, this is just a pure like opinion gut thing, is like I don't like Richard Hart's like personality with the way he's approached this marketing stuff. It's like you're making an obscene amount of wealth off of this, and you're like blinging out and bragging and all this stuff, while from what I can tell, not really having much to show for it. So I just listened to my gut and avoided the project. But what about yourself? What have you understood about it over the years?
Yeah, I'd be in the same boat. It just hasn't risen to a level where I've personally wanted to invest in it, but I do think that there's a very strong community behind it, like many other projects that, I guess it goes back to what we're saying, have a long-term conviction, but make sure you diversify, right? If I have some concerns about what they're trying to do, but that doesn't mean that I'm right. However, you should never just have all your eggs in one basket. Also don't have too many eggs in your basket. There's always that like happy medium. I've seen people over diversify, which in my opinion tends to dilute your gains, because you may miss.
Yeah. Well, to me, this falls on the line of, I absolutely agree with you, don't have all your eggs in one basket, but also hedge, like weed out the obvious bad plays, and personally, just from my standard, this falls into that, because it's one of those things that, like you said, it's got a big community, and you notice that when people show up, they're in your DMs, they're in your channels, they're all in these comments like, you don't understand, blah blah blah, and you're an idiot if you can't. Oh, this obviously. And I get into conversations with these people, and some of them, not all of them, will end up agreeing that it's a Ponzi, and be like, yeah, but that's all of crypto. Everything's a Ponzi. And as soon as I get that, I'm like, yeah, no thanks.
Yeah, so let's move into a little bit of Q&A. It's always my favorite part.
Well, there's one more topic we gotta bring
Okay.
up real quick. The Ethereum OFAC censorship is at, like, from the tweet I'm seeing here, I think this is again from Eric Wall. That, what is it? Everyone is looking at this number to say 52% of blocks are being subject to censorship on Ethereum, but this only tracks how many are being censored at the relay level. What if the non-relayed blocks, 42% of all blocks, are also being censored? The figure could be even higher. So this is a bad precedent, and not something, like, I hope the Ethereum community kind of like figures out some good way to correct this. But yeah, not enjoying seeing validators censoring blocks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, I wonder if at some point Bitcoin was forced to make that type of decision, the Bitcoin community, what would happen?
Yeah, I think wow. I would be amazed to see that happen. Well, I guess it depends over the years, because I've seen more and more people come into Bitcoin being like, yeah, all about Bitcoin, but then being absolutely down with regulation. So I don't know that the diehard cypherpunks are still making up the whole of the community, or the majority of it. And it's so, I mean, okay, well, here's the thing. As being someone who's part of a competing chain, when I see them make these big mistakes like that, I'm like, okay, you guys have fun with that. That would be my attitude with it. Like, I absolutely, I would tell their community, not to absolutely, like, try to figure out a way not to have to put up with this, for the interest of your own people and project and chain. But also, when they're making a mistake, it's like, all right.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. It's going to be interesting to see, because Bitcoin does have a very strong community, and since 2021, that's kind of proponents for regulation. But I think they're proponents with the assumption that it's going to favor Bitcoin, and I hate to frame it this way, but stifle some of the competition. Not even to say it is effectively competition, but there is definitely some bad blood between ETH and Bitcoin camps, right?
Yeah, there's some people in the Bitcoin community that have this entitlement attitude, that, like, they are entitled to crypto, or entitled to, like, being the one and only, the true crypto, and everything else is a scam. And it's just like, oh. So unfortunately, but I am seeing more and more people push back against that. Like Ragnar Leifrasser and other big crypto OG or Bitcoin OGs from within. That's what I like to see, is people within their own camp actually pushing back. I'm starting to see more of that.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, moving into some Q&A. I do enjoy Alpha Glitch left a nice comment, which and I've run into this myself working in the DeFi side of the house, trying to get advertising. A lot of businesses even today will not run advertising for cryptocurrency projects of any sort. But more and more do. So he was saying, or she was saying, that in 2018, Google was blocking crypto ads in its searches, and in 2022, it's accepting crypto payments for cloud services. So, times are changing. Just takes time for those times to change.
And that adds to the sentiment we had earlier, that it's like the long-term bullishness on crypto. It's like, yeah, the global, the macro thing, these are wacky times, but it's crypto's coming through. It looks like a lot of good signal.
Yes. I can't wait to promote Poppy Coin. It's going to happen. Nice. Let's see. Yeah, I like this comment here. Feeling like no one in the crypto space is doing a good job of advocating for unity. One of the missions of crypto was to get everyone on the same, on the same wave, to challenge the status quo together. Instead, we've ended up with 300,000 coins, and everyone's mental and financial efforts are split between. Yeah, that is very true. Our interests are somewhat divided. Our focus, our liquidity, everything is divided. But to me, that's a reflection of the Web3 crypto ethos, which is making it more accessible. I can create a coin, I can create a project, I can create a DAO, and there's no financial barrier really to doing that. I have a lot of the power within crypto that traditionally would only reside with a bank. Now, that's dangerous, obviously, and there's a lot of issues with, that we still have to overcome and fix and figure out. But that I would rather go that route than go towards just having, say, like 1 or 2 or 3 projects in the space, because at that point it's almost guaranteed to become, corporate, centralized, and just another business.
Absolutely agree. And the person's making a great point, and something that I hope to see and hope to be a part of happening is you see an actual like crypto advocacy community coming together. And to me, it's perfectly fine that there's millions of projects. I don't care. That's absolutely fine. But we all have common interest in crypto.
We do.
And so we can absolutely coordinate around that and work together, in that vein.
In the number of use cases, utility, the so much of that has grown from the first few years, right? We're not just a currency anymore. And one of my recent posts, I was talking about that. We talk about what is cryptocurrency, and when you start to get into that, it's really more than the name implies, and it's so much more. It'll continue to be more. That's why I like to defer to the term Web3, because I think it's just a little bit more broad brush, a little more descriptive of really what we have here, which is a lot of different industries coming together, united behind some of the crypto, blockchain, decentralization ethos. So here's another one from Big Chungus. I don't even know if that's a bad word. I don't know. I've only seen that word in recent years.
From my innocent perspective, from what I understand, it's just a humorous meme. But okay. God knows this is the internet, so who knows what it could refer to.
Yeah, don't go to Urban Dictionary looking that one up. I'm sure it's not great. So they're referencing my quote earlier. I said it's just that point in the cycle, and then asking, do you believe the market is predictable, and would you be bold enough to say that most of my predictions have been incorrect? Lots of my predictions have been incorrect. But that's the difference between sitting on a podcast or in Discord or Reddit and just playing around in charts and posting stuff and actually taking up that trade. Everyone's performance is going to be different, but I do believe markets can be predictable. Right now, the predictability lies in understanding the macro. That's not always the case. That can change. But smart money, which is effectively big money, which is effectively the people that move the markets when they trade, they're by and large trading the macro right now. Not everyone, and even not everyone at that level is successful. I mean, we saw plenty of traders implode over the past year or two. Kathy Wood, ARK Investments, a great example of someone that was formerly extremely successful in their investing career and later not. Another end of that spectrum, you have people like Warren Buffett that seemingly defy all odds and just make one great, investment after another. There's a level of predictability, but how much of that comes down to, I don't know, some other external factors and skill sets, who knows? But I think what they're really asking is, do you think applying some basic technical analysis or any sort of analysis to the markets is more effective than not doing any? And to that, I would say absolutely. There's, if you're just going to go and ape on a green candle and sell on a red or something, I don't know. Pretty sure you're going to underperform anything that the average person will get using some basic analysis and having a strategy and a plan. But what do you think?
I would say, why leave a tool off the table? Okay. And so I would, get some idea of technical analysis, the theory behind it. And again, keep a record, come back and refine that. This could be your most important part. If you're not writing it down, you're screwing around. but also like there's other aspects of trading and do that as well. I guess the most with the most authority I can have is to how successful I've actually been trading, and I haven't been. I've been in crypto since 2013, and so when I do a self-assessment of like, okay, well, what kind of crypto trader am I? Like, I'm obviously not where I would have wanted to be. With hindsight, I could never have to work, but reasonably. I've bought, I own property. I've made some, life improvement purchases, over the years, and I've still got, a decent bag of crypto to go with. Let's see, trying to like, how do you share like your net worth without like sharing too much?
I don't think you do.
I could buy a decent home outright, and that's not bad. I mean, we live in the age of people our age are lucky if they can afford a home, period.
Mhm.
And so I'm happy with that. And my attitude, my strategy was I'm not looking to try to get obscenely rich and wealthy, because here's the flat out, this is financial advice, my friends, from me. No one else is responsible, only I am. The more risk, the more reward. The more reward you want, the more risk you're going to have to take. And my plan was to try to thread the middle of that. I don't want too much, I don't want too little. Find this Aristotelian mean that's right for me. Because the more I try to risk things, and the more I compete with the higher level players, I know they're going to take my money in the long run. And so, yeah, here and there, and the bigger of a risk kind of play I'm going to take, I'm not going to put as much money into it. And it's in my head at some point, it becomes more of just, it's for fun gambling, so that's my attitude with things. And that's the result I've had. If that's a similar result that you're looking for, you're not trying to be quote unquote greedy. But you're just looking to help this supplement and improve your life, and it personally has for me. I'm absolutely happy I've made this choice, even if there's a part of me that's like, I could be obscenely wealthy, if I had only done X, Y, Z. It's like, oh, buddy, but you could have gotten me in so much trouble if I had listened to you as well. So that's up to you. The only thing I can speak to is the outcome I've had, and I would just try to go into it with that attitude that. Competing with the big players, because I was a poker dealer for a long time, and I watched this play out over and over again, that it is a law to me that these are games, and even though they're very serious and very real, people treat and play them like games, and the better players who are better at it will get your money in the long run. And so be careful if you sit down at the more of the high stake table you sit down at. You're eventually going to be the fish,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's look at the Reddit side, see if we have any good questions over there. See a lot of comments about moons. Maybe we should ambush Jay Winter. Now, last episode we did get a segment. If you get to the end, to the Q&A section, we talk about moons, and Jay Winter, being a moderator on RCC, he had a lot of good information to share. So definitely check that out. You can download that on Buzzsprout. I posted the link at the top of or somewhere in this thread on Reddit. But definitely check out Buzzsprout for the We Are CC, We Are Cryptocurrency podcast, and you can download that episode. Question here: can we talk about the Reddit NFTs, or as they call them, collectible avatars, and the future? That would be another great question for Jay Winter. I don't know anything about where that's going, what the future is. I honestly haven't really been tracking it too much, but I do know that they sold out, and I do know that that's potentially very spicy. And, like any NFT project, that long-term conviction can pay off. Reddit being a very significant player in the Web 2 space, I wouldn't mind having, some of the NFTs and holding them, until the next bull market and see what happens. Mm-hmm. Reddit really is one of those communities that's kind of defied its age. You know, people that are like the Zoomers on there now are the same age we were when we first got into Reddit, right? And now we're old enough to be their parents.
Touche. My introduction to this format was Dig way back in the day.
Yeah, I remember that. That was like 15 years ago or something.
No,
It was a while.
more. I think it was. No, you're right. You're right. 15 years ago. Yeah,
something like that. Yeah. So, and that's something we've seen. Actually, the founder of Dig is one of the biggest players in the NFT space. So why isn't Reddit? You know. Yeah. So yeah, I can't give you any real concrete information on it, but I would say it's at least fun. Don't go chasing it. Don't spend a lot of money on it though. I love this comment. You know what is also law? Actual law. Yes, I agree. Not everyone will agree with you, but I do agree. Sloss Sula. Yeah, Shotgun Fire Moon questions at the mods. I hate to tell you, the only mod, I'm not a real mod. I have mod level access only to run these events. I do not moderate anything. I don't even fully understand the deal with moons. I think I have some.
I've got a question. All of these avatars I see that people have, the Reddit, are those all NFTs, or can you have an avatar without it being an NFT?
I think you can have one without it being one, but I honestly haven't taken the time to explore. Because I think before the NFT thing rolled out, they were just avatars, you know, just profile pictures.
Okay.
Yeah. Here's a question we don't have an answer to. How long is this crypto winter going to last? And if I knew, I would love to tell you.
Okay. Crystal ball time. Let me ask deep down. The gods of crypto, how long is this winter going to last? Tell me here. Hold on. Still kind of murky.
You know,
I'm getting 8.5 months.
I got, so 8.5 months from now, that'll be summer next year. You know, what's funny is I put together a really substantive deep dive analysis of some common, well-known historical trends for Bitcoin and crypto. Right now, this is going through some editing, proofreading on behalf of Tom Crown. By Tom Crown. He's going to probably post it up on his site if he likes it. But one of the things I was looking at is if we just take each of the historical trends, a few of them, and look at where they suggest the next all-time high is going to be, the next cycle top. And we're looking at things like lengthened cycles. We're looking at things like the growth between one all-time high to another, or the growth from bear market floor to the top of the next all-time high. You know, all these different things. And one of them, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but one of them did say that June to July of next year would be the next high, the next cycle high before we retreat back into a bear market. And at that point, I would be inclined to say it's just a bear market rally. But yeah, I should say next cycle high, not all-time high. So make sure I'm clear on that. I don't think in that case we would make new highs. I don't think we would break 60K if it was that soon. But I could be wrong. So anyways, a lot of the other predictions looking at historical trends landed between 2024 and 2025 for the next high. Now, that doesn't mean that the market doesn't start to creep up. If you look historically, once you tap that bottom, it's just kind of a slow, gradual recovery until the next bull market kind of, you start seeing those early hints of FOMO and you start seeing the big moves. But it's usually months to a year or more of just a gradual growth after that floor is hit. So in theory, 17K could have been the floor. We just don't know yet.
When I start to notice, to me, like the bull market's back is whenever I go around town, or a lot of my interactions, people in general are talking about crypto. That's an early sign to me. When like my barber that's, I've never had a conversation with about crypto starts bringing it up and talking about it. And, oh, did you see such and such in the news? And da-da-da. And when that's like a common occurrence to me, that's when I feel like we're definitely getting out of bear land.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's always a good indication. I mean, and that's going to kind of, at this point, definitely it's going to accompany the macro cycle, the credit cycle, all those other things. The big picture has to pivot to be kinder to the average citizen before we start to see a big rush back into risk assets.
Ooh, that's the thing. I potentially take it with a grain of salt. I could see the risk and the uncertainty of the world as it is being a big push into crypto in the coming months.
It could be. Yeah, there are certainly scenarios where the crypto decouples, or there's particular cases where maybe just independently, like Bitcoin or ETH or something else, we'll see a massive rally and appreciation. But I think that depends on things like, regulatory changes or big geopolitical, entities making some decision.
And that's, when you start seeing nation states hold it as a reserve currency, in my opinion, it's only a matter of time before that happens. Like, we're seeing a war of fiats, and Bitcoin and crypto in general is a whole new beast to that element. And so that's what I'm watching for.
Let's see. There's a few comments about Richard Hart being a scammer. I would say do your own research. I try to be open-minded. I mean, I won't invest in it, but just, for the people who are saying it's a scam, this one guy, Pale Wrongdoer 5155 said that multiple videos. Hey, share a couple of links. Help your fellow Redditors out and share the information. Wow, there's a lot. Next week, we will make sure to set aside time to talk about Reddit NFTs and moons, because there's just so many questions about them. I don't understand a lot of English, but I try to listen. Thank you, Carolina Diaz. I wish we could do this in multiple languages, but don't have the time. Maybe we can get a translator to do subtitles. That would be kind of cool.
That's very sweet. Yeah, thank you for the feedback.
Okay.
Well, and also, I was just thinking about this. How many, like, the people that tune in for their Monday to listen to us chat, like, that's an honor, and that's awesome. Thank you, everybody.
It is. You guys have no idea how much fun we have doing this, and how much we enjoy just engaging with you this one day a week, and occasionally on the AMAs. And it's a lot of fun. And of course, we always need more help. I've said it every week, probably for 34 weeks, but we need help. And if you're interested on, speaking role, editing role, something else kind of role, let us know. Message me on Reddit or Discord or Twitter. But I think we got to the end of the questions, Jared. So I think we're ready to wrap it up. So any parting comments?
Well, let's see. I think we touched everything. I really, really appreciate everybody that came out. Y'all are absolutely wonderful and love you. I hope this is the start to a perfect week for you, or the best a week can be.
Wow, that's good. Yeah, I agree. I hope it's a great week for everyone, and we'll see you next week. Trade safe. Trade safe. Trade safe. Trade safe. Trade safe. Trade safe.